The big news, obviously, is that Kylian Mbappé is not in the French national team for the upcoming round of fixtures. L'Équipe have just said their pain of absence marker going with Touche. Obviously, Real Madrid have got Osasuna early on Saturday in La Liga. Here is Carlo Ancelotti on Real Madrid's squad right now and talking about the positioning of those forwards. He said, I didn't want to take him, Vinicius, away from where he makes the difference. And Mbappe can act as a forward, nothing else. Ours is not an offensive problem, but a defensive one. Sacrifice, concentration and collective work. I've said it many times and I repeat it. The key is to be a compact team. Let's welcome Frank and Kieran back in. But Craig, what do you think of what Ancelotti's had to say there?
It's a defensive problem, it's a midfield problem and it's an attacking problem. It's a problem. Got an early game tomorrow, you mentioned it, Osasuna. Heavy favourites, should win, but we've seen this movie this season. They've struggled against almost every team, a lot of times in La Liga. They're leaving out the French squad makes no... I've really no interest in that because it's Nations League. He's not dropped. He's the best player France have got. He's not dropped. He's just leaving him out of these Nations League games to maybe try some other French players. Maybe Frank knows more about it than me. Well, I'm sure he does. But that's kind of a, you know... Mbappe wanted to play, apparently, and Deschamps is probably looking at other players. That's sensible. As for Real Madrid, you know, it's amazing that, you know, eyes are looking at Ancelotti. It's amazing these football clubs, isn't it? That here's a guy in Ancelotti who's had so much success around the world, but particularly in Spain and Madrid, under the most trying circumstances, particularly last season with the injuries that they had. Without feeling sorry for them. They had a lot to key players. And yet the moment... And he's had to shuffle the team around because Florentino Perez goes out and goes, hey, here he is. Here's your man. Here he is. Deal with it. And as soon as... well, not as soon, but it's been a mediocre at best start to the season. The performances have been average, apart from the second half, really, in the Dortmund game. But as soon as it's all going a bit pear-shaped, it's that... The focus just really comes off the players and goes on to the manager, who was the greatest since sliced bread 5 months ago. Now he hasn't got a Scooby-Doo. How he's going to set up a team, according to the media. It's a tough old business that he's in, and it's one that I think at the moment he really is struggling to figure out how he is going to make it work. He's not Lewandowski. He's not Harry Kane. He's not these natural strikers. But they need him to be more of that than he has been. But I really wanted to see him show that he's going to roll his sleeves up for his manager, who's under pressure, and help his teammates and work hard and do all the things that we question him about. I know he's a talented, we know he's a super talent, but I want to see him roll his sleeves up the weekend and do the ugly part of the business and get his team out of trouble. He's not the only one, by the way. Jude Bellingham's been average. Vinicius has been hot and cold. You know, Lucas Vazquez at right back, filling in for Carvajal's been a nightmare. The centre-halves haven't played particularly well. So there's been a lot of problems. But the focus is on two people for me, the manager and Kylian Mbappé, and he needs to step up.
The truth is, Kylian Mbappé has been no different for Real Madrid than he was for PSG. The difference, of course, is the expectation. And PSG were expensively building a team to maybe win the Champions League once. You can run away with French football all you want. Real Madrid, it's a totally different bar. You are competing at the highest level, competing to win the Champions League every single season. So the ask of Kylian Mbappé is a whole lot different at Real Madrid, and I don't think he's made any kind of adjustment, which is disappointing from a player that certainly I felt is one of the best in world football, and once Ronaldo and Messi kind of stepped aside, you thought he was the heir apparent. So to not see him change his game, raise his game to the level that's needed of the best player on the planet at the biggest club in the planet has been hugely disappointing. I'm with Craig. You cannot play for Real Madrid and expect everybody to fit in around you. You have to fit into that system. And he simply hasn't.
I think that's a really good point, Shaq, is that he needs to raise his game. The Kylian Mbappé at PSG is not going to be good enough for what Real Madrid need. They all raised their game when they went there. The ones that succeeded and were successful. Toni Kroos, Luka Modric, and I'm talking about in recent years. Ronaldo from Man United. Karim Benzema. And they all got battered, particularly Ronaldo and Karim Benzema. They've all been battered at various points by the Real Madrid, by the Bernabeu crowd. And they've handled it. He's not been... It was Tchouaméni it was getting whistled in midweek. They haven't turned on Mbappe or anybody else yet. But all these players that succeeded in this white shirt playing at home in front of this crowd, they all went through trials and tribulations and got it in the neck. But their games all improved at Real Madrid. The trajectory was there. The PSG performances are not going to get the job that Real Madrid need done. He is going to have to up his game to be in the echelons, or maybe even sniffing at the echelons of what Messi did at Barcelona and what Cristiano Ronaldo did at Real Madrid. So if he's thought he's going to waltz in here, and I'm not suggesting he is, but it kind of looks a bit like it to me, he's just going to waltz in and it's all going to happen, then he's had a rude awakening, and so have Real Madrid.
Can we see that from him this weekend then, Frank? What the boys were saying, rolling up his sleeves, fighting for his manager when he needs him the most right now, and that work rate from him?
Well, it's really the time because I thought it would have been the time when he first signed. It's what I said, you know. He would have to step up, to work harder than he did for Paris Saint-Germain, to run back when he loses the ball, to make more runs, to make more commitments, to make more adjustment. Because, again, Real Madrid didn't need him. He needed Real Madrid, and that's what it is. So he had to prove. And, you know, I like to refer to the movie Any Given Sunday, where that young quarterback thinks he's getting the best. He's the best because he deserves some credits and because he made some nice passes to some other players. But he didn't respect the others. And you have to respect the other. And when you work, when you lose the ball, you have to respect the others. So maybe the others are starting to be a little bit fed up with that guy who just came and doesn't run when he loses the ball. It's also how it works in the dressing room. Maybe he feels that, and maybe he doesn't know how to answer to that. But it's due to Ancelotti to say, man, you come here, you work hard, because Real Madrid is bigger than you. Nobody's bigger than Real Madrid. And that's what it is. And he has to say the same to Vinicius Junior now. And maybe to Bellingham. Come on, the last season was good, but what are you doing right now? Guys, you know, you have to go back to your basics and do the job that I'm asking you to do. That's the problem. So yeah, it's time for Mbappé to step up, to show more, because I saw him playing for Paris Saint-Germain, and when he wants to show more, I can tell you, the guy is a threat. Okay,
I know that.
Lots of good points today on the show. Shaka made a good point. Frank made a good point. Well, that was a really. I was intrigued by that point Frank made, which I think is true. Is he needed Real Madrid more than they needed him, which I think is an interesting way to look at it in terms of the player in the club, and now, you know, Real Madrid really need him to step up.
Yeah. So
has Kieran made a good point yet?
Well, we're actually going to go. We're actually
Kieran, make a good point. Come on.
We're actually going to save Kieran for our Ballon d'Or chat.
At last.
Because
I've not made a good point. I've not made a good point. Kieran's not. I'm not sure.
Well,
but
listen,
these two have.
Frank and Craig are never too fussed.
I think it's not right. Personally, I think it's not right to criticise Mbappe's performance alone without talking about what's happening at Real Madrid as a whole.
Why?
I think it's
Why? We always looked at Ronaldo and Messi and these great players. Kieran, he's not. He's the superstar. It's gone in there, and he's not performing.
I know, but I think it's easier said than done. But you can't not replace Toni Kroos, or at least attempt to. And I think the lack of defensive replacements, I think Nacho is another big one for me with his versatility. I think he's missed. And the lack of midfield signings have destabilised them enough that in this day and age, unless you're Messi, you cannot get away with just being an unbelievable player and think that the rest is going to sort itself out, the rest of the team. It's not. That every year that goes on, the game gets faster, the game gets stronger. And if you don't have a spine of a team that is functioning well, then it doesn't matter how good or bad Mbappe is. You're not going to get the best. You're not going to get the best out of him. And for me, there's too many square pegs in round holes at Madrid, and I think that's why we're not seeing the best of Mbappe. When we've seen the best of Kylian Mbappe, the electric, unpredictable, devastating Mbappe, it's been off the left. It's been off the left. Everyone knows that. It's not a secret. And the number 9, the playing up top is a different world up there. And it can be. And I think it can be lonely. And I think he's actually feeling lonely and uncomfortable in the 9 position. And it remains to be seen whether he's going to adapt to it or not. But yes, do I think he's not helping himself by making the runs, not pressing as much, holding on to the ball a bit too long? All of those things, yes. But essentially, I think he's not as comfortable up top.
Do you get a cookie from the boss if you make a good point?
You're all getting cookies today.
Do you get a cookie or something? Do you
You're all getting...
a little bit of candy from the boss, and it sits at your desk, and you go, "Oh, I must have been okay."
What, for doing your job, like Kylian Mbappé?
Oh, I must have been decent the other day. Well, I've got a cookie. Look, I take all that, and that's fine. But I can't get the classical out of my head. You know, when Real Madrid were dominating.
I don't think they can get the classical out of their head.
When they can't get Milan out of their head either. When they were dominating that first half, I can't get Mbappe's schoolboy timing of the runs out of my head. And I take this point that Kieran made about, maybe he's feeling a little, I wouldn't say lonely, but maybe he's feeling a little bit out of sorts being in that position. But what I would say is, and it goes back to the point I made about tomorrow's game, then if you're not playing your best in terms of your forward skills and abilities and scoring goals and beating defenders, then show the crowd the rest of it. Show the crowd that you're and Ancelotti's touched on this. Both Vinicius and Kylian Mbappé have not pressed well, and that's affected the rest of the team. Lazy. Let's be honest about it. They haven't pressed. They've been lazy, and they are lazy at times. When they fancy it, they can do it. But they go and they press and they harass defenders and they work hard and they chase back. And if it is a problem in the midfield, you know what? If you see one of your strikers chasing back and making a tackle, it's fantastic as a midfielder. You know what's not fantastic? Watching the two of them up there, leaving you to do all the dirty work. So he can, and he's not the only one, but him and Vinicius can do that side of the game. And sometimes it's that side of the game that sparks a revival. It's not a bit of brilliance. It's not, a wonder goal or a free kick. Sometimes it's showing your teammates that everybody's in this together and working hard. And I think that would be a good and decent starting point at the weekend.